I would do it, but we're not saying it at all.
You're good to go.
Thank you. Okay. We'll call this meeting to order. We're at a council meeting, the 10th of June. Record of attendance. Lindsay has that, and I'm looking for the absent with regrets. A motion for Councillor McLeod.
So moved.
Okay, Deputy Mayor.
Seconded.
Second by Councillor Lesser. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you. Declarations of conflict of interest. Anyone? You can certainly declare at the time of the agenda item. Approval of agenda. Any additions or deletions? So I'm just keeping track of additions. I put housing report as 1. Put lobster cars as 2. Anything else? Go ahead, Councillor Barry or Deputy.
Addiction supports.
That's number 3 on additions. Addiction supports. Anybody else? Anything you want to put out there? You know what? I know it's a beautiful night, but we're going to have to put deer population again.
Can we just call that animals? Because I have something about, I have a question.
Yes. Animal population. Well, that's kind of a, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? That's number 4 there, Wade. Okay. A motion with the agenda items added, please.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Councillor Cleveland.
Second.
Second by Councillor Hatfield. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you. Approval of minutes. Special Town Council, May 13th, please.
So move.
Moved by Councillor Hatfield, second by Councillor Cleveland. Discussion? All those in
Question.
favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Town Council, May 13th, please.
So
Am I
moved.
admitting guests? Lindsay admits guests?
Yeah, he's here for the planning item.
Yep, good, thank you. It came on my screen. Okay, where are we? The Town Council, May 13th. Who moved that one? Councillor Cleveland, second by Deputy Mayor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Committee of the Whole, May 27th, please.
So move.
Moved by Councillor Hatfield, second by Councillor Lesser. All those in
Question.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you. A special town council, May 27th.
So moved.
Moved by Deputy, second by Councillor Lesser. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. And we have a special town council on June the 4th.
So moved.
Moved by Deputy, second by Councillor Cleveland. Discussion?
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you, folks. Okay, public hearing. So we are doing our public hearing this way now. So what I'll do is read out the item, and I will ask 3 times if anybody wants to speak to the issue. We have a couple of people on the call with us, which is great to have. And I'll ask 3 times if anybody wants to speak to the issue. Council doesn't discuss the issue here. We will discuss that later in the agenda, and off we go. So let me just get my, okay. So it's item 7A is the first one, the REMO bylaw, that council adopt the regional emergency management bylaw as presented, and that council repeal the municipal emergency measures bylaw. Would anyone
moved.
like to speak to that? So I'm going to ask 3 times. Would anyone like to speak to that? And a 3rd time, would anybody like to speak to that? Okay, hearing no one, we'll go to that item will be later on the agenda. So the public hearing 7B, minimum housing standards bylaw. That council amend bylaw 14, minimum housing standards bylaw as recommended by staff. Would anyone like to speak to this issue? I'll ask a 2nd time. Would anyone like to speak to this one? And I'll ask a 3rd time. Would anyone like to speak to this one? Okay, this one too will be on the council agenda later. And the 3rd item, 7C, 8 James Street. And the item is to amend the land use bylaw to rezone 8 James Street, PID 9033 7155 and PID 902 04520 from an institution, I1, to medium density residential Main Street, R-2M zone, that would permit the following uses proposed by the property owner stated in the planner's report. So we have the that issue, and I think council, there is a letter from the Davises as well. So would anybody like to speak to this one? I'll ask 3 times. Anyone in the audience like to speak to this issue? And I'll ask a 3rd time. Would anyone like to speak to this one on 8 James? Okay, hearing no one, that will be put on the agenda for later this evening. And that concludes the public hearing portion of this meeting. Thanks, folks. Business arising, REMO bylaw, 2nd reading. So the recommended motion is that council pass 2nd reading to adopt the regional emergency management bylaw as presented. And that council pass 2nd reading to repeal the municipal emergency measures bylaw. CAO, can we do those separately or together?
Best if we do them separately.
Okay, so let's do the first one. The motion would be that council pass 2nd reading to adopt the regional emergency management bylaw as presented. Who would like to make that motion?
I'll move that.
Okay, Councillor Dares, seconded by Councillor Lesser. Is there any discussion on this one? Go ahead, Councillor Dares.
Yeah, just very quickly, I just see this as a housekeeping item with the combination of the 3 municipal units into one REMO. So it's just common sense.
Thank you. Agree. Okay, is there anybody else that would like to speak to that before we call the question? Okay, I'm calling the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you, folks. And the second part of that is that council pass 2nd reading to repeal the municipal emergency measures bylaw. I think Councillor Dares, what you said holds true for this one too.
Exactly.
Yeah. Who wants to make that motion? Okay, Councillor Cleveland, second by Councillor Lesser. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you. 8B, minimum housing standards bylaw. This is the 2nd reading. So the recommended motion there is that council pass 2nd reading to amend bylaw 14, minimum housing standards bylaw as recommended by staff.
So moved.
Councillor Lesser, seconded by Councillor Dares. Discussion, anyone?
Could we just have the CAO perhaps just highlight the amendments
Certainly.
for the purposes of the public?
Mhm.
Excuse me. Your Worship, there are a number of amendments throughout the bylaw. They're really throughout. There's information in there about enforcement and charges that can be laid. There's explanation of some of the elements of minimum standards, for instance, interior walls and ceilings. There's a clause that gives some detail in terms of what's expected there. Stairways, balconies, etc. Some clarification in terms of what the standards are around that. There is a section on carbon monoxide alarms that is required, and a new section on fire protection. And there's a more clear definition of non-habitable rooms within the bylaw. So number of small renumbering, relettering amendments, but for the most part, I think that covers it.
Thank you. If I could, from what I saw, it definitely modernizes the act a little bit and gives it a bit more teeth. So it's timely.
Yeah, it's very timely. I think the important piece here is that the public understands that we have this available to them. I think every one of us has gotten calls from people that are living in substandard housing, not understanding that they do have a means to get that looked after. So they just have to contact the office and go through the process there. And staff is really great at looking into those very quickly and getting things done. And I love that we've tightened it up some, to make sure that those things can get done. Councillor Lesser?
Yeah, just to add to that, we all have been contacted for sure by people living in situations that are not probably healthy for them. At the forefront. But I think one thing that comes up often from the tenants is that they're afraid to report it because they're afraid that if they report it, the landlord's going to kick them out after. And I think people that have reported it had things covered. Like the process is so well done. I think it's worth, it's a little bit of reassurance that this is actually working. And obviously, if people have been watching council, there's been a number of huge improvements by law enforcement on properties that are unsightly. And I think the word's getting around there that we are trying to get things up to code and looking better in the town. So, I get the fear that some of the tenants would have of reporting it and then getting kicked out of the apartment, and simply because there's no other place to move to. But they can't continue to live in a situation where their health is in danger. So that's it.
Very true. And I hope it still holds true that they can't be evicted during COVID. So
I don't think that is still in place, Pam, that eviction during COVID. I think that was done away with several months ago. So
okay.
I think that can happen, but they certainly can't be evicted because they've reported, like Councillor Lesser said, if they've reported, that does not give grounds for eviction.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor. Okay, did we vote on the motion? Anybody else want to share anything? Councillor Cleveland? No?
No.
You good? Okay. All right. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, we have, am I under business arising? 8 James, 8C, 8 James Street. So we had the public hearing earlier on this one. The recommended motion is that council pass second reading to amend the land use bylaw to rezone 8 James Street from an institutional to medium density residential Main Street zone that would permit the following uses proposed by the property owners stated in the planner's report.
I'll move that.
Okay, Councillor Lesser. Second by Councillor Dayers. Any discussion on this one? I'm pretty excited about this one, actually. Glad that's found a new home. Okay.
Yeah. I think we should all be excited about this one.
Yeah.
The repurposing of that building and in ways that is going to see a drastic improvement in the town. So I'm so pleased to see it happen.
Yeah, it is. It's a big deal. Okay, any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Carried. All right, under new business, dark sky friendly lighting. Go ahead, CAO.
So, Your Worship, I asked Lindsay to place this on the agenda because at our last meeting, we had a presentation, but we never make any motions or decisions on nights of presentation. So I put it here to ensure that it didn't just get lost in time, that you had an opportunity to discuss it. And if anybody had a motion, that they would have that opportunity. And of course, we could always deal with it at another time if you weren't prepared tonight.
Okay. I guess I'm a fan of having it moved to the committee of the whole and getting information to us on what it would look like. Go ahead, Councillor Cleveland.
If I could, yes. Actually, I would like to make that motion. I would like to have this moved to committee of the whole. I would like to have a discussion about it, and perhaps at that point engage the staff to take a look at what bylaws would or could look like. I don't want them to be too restrictive, of course, but I do know that the municipality of Argyle has done some good work with Dark Sky Eye to make this work, and I think it certainly warrants some strong discussion. So I would like to make a motion that we move this to committee of the whole, get more information, and begin a little bit of work on this.
Okay.
I'll second that. Second
by Deputy Mayor. Go ahead, CAO.
Just for clarity, the getting of more information, I'm hearing this as you want to discuss it and then maybe get more information. But if there's more information you want to inform your discussion at committee of the whole, if you could be clear on what that information is, then we can make sure we're ready.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't think it needs to be in the actual proposal or in the motion I'm making, but I would like to see what Argyle's bylaws, as they reflect this, are. So I'd like to have that opportunity to kind of look that over, so I'm more aware of what they're up to.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a good point. Councillor Hatfield?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I'd like to see what Argyle does have in theirs and what we could consider putting in hours that would work for us.
Okay, is there anything else anybody wants to add to that information you're looking for?
Not to that point, but just in general, I thought it was a great presentation. I think I mean, we're lucky to have that, in our backyard, and I learned a lot. I didn't realize that, it was as big and as great as it was, kind of national. And I think anything we can do moving forward to kind of support it is just, forward thinking. So, thanks to Tim for coming in and doing that. And I seen even this morning he live streamed at 5 a.m. the solar eclipse or whatnot. So, just the buy-in and whatnot we get back to the draw to the area is even great. So, he's already doing for us. So I think anything we can do to partner up would be more than great.
Good. Go ahead, Councillor Dares.
Thank you, Worship. Just a comment. I was extremely, I thought that the presentation was very informative, and it was really good information I didn't have. And I see how well this fits with the Armagh and Acadia Shores tourism initiatives as well. So if we can be of any help at all, I think it's incumbent on us to do so. So yeah, I look forward to that discussion.
Good. Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Contrary? Motion carried. Harassment and discrimination policy. So 9C is this one, and then 9D will be to repeal what was the sexual harassment one. So we're looking for the recommended motion that council adopt the harassment and discrimination policy as recommended by staff.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Lesser. Second by Deputy Mayor. Discussion. I read it a couple times. It's thorough. It's helpful. It's important.
Yeah.
All those things. So I'm glad we're doing this. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Contrary? Motion carried. And 9D is sexual harassment policy repeal. So that council repeal the sexual harassment policy is recommended by staff. Who would like to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Councillor Cleveland, second by Councillor Dayers. Discussion on that one? All
Oh,
those
well,
in favor?
Just for clarity,
ahead.
before I get any further, just if the public thinks that we're somehow repealing all of our sexual harassment policy, we're repealing this policy to be replaced by the other policy. So we're not, I just thought of that, and I don't want any confusion. So, yeah.
Good point. Okay, we good?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. I can't wait till I get the man that calls the question back. Grant policy amendment. That council amend the grant policy to include an annual disclosure statement. I really like that one. Okay.
Your
Go ahead,
worship,
CAO.
yeah, your worship, there was a change in the MGA that requires it to be done in policy, and so we're just catching up with legislative changes.
Okay. Did I miss bursaries? I did. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Who made that motion?
I'll make the motion. I just want to point out that as the CAO pointed out, it's necessary anyway, but we are a group that believes strongly in transparency. So it's really a non-starter. It's of course what we should do. So I'm happy to support it and make that motion.
Okay, thank you. Who seconded that?
I'll second.
Okay, Councillor Lesser. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you. I'm going to go back up to 9B that I somehow skipped over, and that is bursaries. So Lindsay's on. We had how many, Lindsay? There were 3. There ended up being?
Yes, there were 3 altogether.
Okay. So, and the budget on that CAO was usually 1,500.
Yes.
Can I have some more money? So I have 3. We can give 2 out, or at $750 each, because we used to give one. We used to give 1 out at 1,500, and then we got some more people applying, so we did 2. But there's only 3. So what do we? I know it's budget, but at about 700 each. That gives
Worship,
us
I have no trouble with that. I don't know about anyone else.
I'm good with it.
So I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. Who wants to make that motion? That the 3 that applied, and I read the letters. They're great. They're town kids. They've got good plans. We just want to help them. Okay.
Let's make that motion.
All right. So the
Second it.
motion is to give each of the 3 applicants $700. Okay. Moved and seconded. Any more discussion?
Great investment.
It is.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you. Bursaries grant amendment, Mariner Center's resolution. Okay, do you want to take that, CAO? Because it's an easy one. We're just looking for the motion.
Oh, sure.
on
Give
it.
them the easy stuff.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, Your Worship, just getting up in front of me here. So the 3 councils have done a lot of good work towards the expansion of getting the expansion of Mariner Center going. And I think the most important and work to date has been what is included in number 1 within the resolution, which is agreeing on how the local share of municipal funding for the project will be will be shared, and that's really important. And I think for people who aren't directly involved in the process, they wouldn't understand necessarily how significant that is. So congratulations to council and to the other councils for having done that. What this resolution does is it commits the three councils. This is our commitment. The other two councils have passed or will be passing the same resolution. Commits us to a funding formula and commits us to the project. We are going to make an application through the Green and Inclusive Buildings Fund. That's currently underway, the application development, as council is aware. The project will have two phases, a $25 million phase and a $5 million phase, which we hope and plan to implement concurrently, so at the same time. The reason for the phasing is that there are different funding opportunities that have their limits in terms of the size and scope of a project they can consider. And so by breaking the project down into two somewhat smaller projects, we're eligible for more funding opportunities. The funding formula will apply not only to Mariner Center, as we know it, and the expansion, but it will also apply to Mariners on Main. Another initiative of the three councils to restore operations at Mariners on Main until the expansion can be realized. And again, great work by the three councils to take that on. It does go on to say here that we will undertake a comprehensive public engagement process, and I think to date there have been maybe 3 surveys around the what would happen or what should happen around Mariner Center expansion, and I'm sure there'll be much more public engagement as we go forward. As you know, once we have funding and we have a project, there will be a design phase to that, which will involve engagement of specific interest groups or user groups, as well as the general public. We talk about being open, respectful, transparent, and of course we always try to do that, but we are jointly committing to one another and to the community that that's the way we'll undertake this work. And we're also acknowledging that there will be a fundraising aspect to a Mariner Center expansion project, and that we will be supporting that in one way or another as it sort of takes shape. So I think those are the operative statements within the resolution. And again, the three councils are each being asked to pass the same resolution. And these resolutions will be part of the application that goes into the federal government for the Green and Inclusive Buildings Fund.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Cleveland.
Just a couple of things. First off, an enormous amount of work has been done in a very short period of time. And I want to reiterate what our CAO just said, thanking all three councils for the work that they have done in moving this forward. It's very exciting. It's unbelievably exciting that this is moving, especially at the pace that it is. And so I just wanted to take a moment to say, first off, thank you to the three councils. A huge thank you to the Mariner Center CEO, Duran Hadib, who has done so much work for this, and Max Chauvin, who has served kind of as in a counselor advisory position as well. There's been a lot that's been done, and I'm, as a guy who kind of made this his goal through this term, I'm just kind of over the moon that it's moving as well as it has been. So here's to all, and I very much would like to make that motion that we approve the resolution.
Thank you. Second by Councillor Dayers.
Can't even tell you how long I've waited to second that one. And if I could, I just want to add to the list of rock stars, the three CAOs, and our very own Mark Brophy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark doesn't like to be called out, but he really is a gem and has done some amazing work for us, for all three councils on this project. So I too want to just tip my hat to Mark.
Councillor Lesser?
Yeah, I mean, we're all on the same page on this one for sure. It was exciting. Getting involved in politics wasn't something I ever planned to do up until like a few months before the election or a few weeks before the election, I guess, mainly because I don't really like the way government operates, and it's too slow, too many bylaws, too much red tape. And what's exciting right now that's happening is, and people not working together, but what's exciting is we're actually getting rid of some of the bylaws that don't make sense, which is exciting. Not to do with the Mariner Center, but getting rid of some of the old bylaws. Where having those extra meetings, like you can see, we approved the motions of all the extra meetings we're having. So we're putting the time into work. But most importantly is that we're working with partners that typically that doesn't happen a lot in government. And that's one of the turnoffs for me on government. It seems like everybody wants to take credit for something, and they don't want to work together unless they can get credit. But I was very impressed with all three councils that we were able to come to a good resolution on that. And it was exciting the other day to see the photo of the tiles getting grouted at Mariners on Main. And I made a comment about it, and which I wish I didn't do. I could smell the pool, and growing up and being on the swim team, there was a smell in that pool, and I couldn't sleep that night. I could smell that chlorine like all night through my sleep. So it's very exciting to hear that that's coming back, and we're on a good path here, and it's kind of restored my faith in politics.
See what happens when you come to the table? Okay, so we moved and seconded that motion. Would anybody else like to speak?
Question?
Question's been called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Good stuff. And then, oh gosh, I've got 3 pages up here, sorry. Then the terms of reference, I believe. Mariner Center Expansion Committee, terms of reference. CAO, did you want to just speak to that?
Just very quickly, Your Worship. So the Mariner Center Expansion Steering Committee, when it was originally conceived, there were 2 subcommittees, one providing direction on the bridge and the other trying to advance the Mariner Center expansion. And once the bridge decisions were made and it was put in the hands of Mariner Center to run with, there was no longer a need for subcommittees. So CAOs and Duram Hadib stepped back and took the document and updated it to reflect what we believed was the mandate that the councils wanted this committee to have in an updated and more comprehensive way. And so this was brought forward to the steering committee to review, and they've recommended it onto the councils. And so it is there for your consideration, as it will be for the other councils at their next meeting.
Thank you, CAO. I think the most exciting part for me, it's all exciting because it nails everything down. But we've added Chief Robinson, who is now at the table, and Rachel Stevenson, their economic development. She's been at the table with us for some time. But it's a regional effort, and Acadia First Nation is a big part of this region. So I have to say, my favorite thing in that whole few pages is that everybody is at this table. It's that's the kind of stuff that, like Derek, Councillor Lesser said, that's the kind of thing that just makes you say, this is why I do what I do. So it's good stuff, good work. Who wants to make the motion to confirm those terms of reference, please?
So moved.
Okay, Councillor Hatfield, second by Councillor Dares. I saw some hands, so I'm going to say, okay, any more discussion on that one? Go ahead, Councillor Cleveland. Oh, you just wanted to vote.
Yeah, I was just voting.
You're way ahead of us. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary. Motion carried. Thanks, everyone. Okay, reports. Council advisory committees. Committee of the Whole. Deputy Mayor.
Just let me bring it up on my screen here. The recommended motion is to recommend that council award the ferry terminal phase 2 33% architectural drawing and a Class D estimate to London Lynch Architects in the amount of $48,500 HST extra.
Good, thank you. Who would like to second that? Councillor Lesser. Any discussion on that?
Question.
Questions called. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Deputy, is that all you had?
It is an easy one
I
tonight.
know. I had to look at the agenda a couple times. I said, "My goodness, you're getting off easy."
That's
10B.
payback for chairing the last meeting, almost all of it. Just saying. So.
That's true. That's very true. Oh my, committee of the whole. There's committee of the whole. Now we're at citizen advisories, 10B, planning advisory committee. Was there anything there, Councillor Cleveland? I don't think there was anything because there was no meeting.
There was no meeting, so no, there's nothing there. Thank you.
So you two both got off easy this month.
Yeah.
We'll fix that next month. Okay, reports for information. Mayor's report. Questions for committee chairs. Does anybody have questions for committee chairs? I have to say this. We're all thinking it. Councillor Hatfield, Communities in Bloom, and actually Councillor Dares too. Everybody that's involved in that. Every day I go on social media and I see that the Communities in Bloom group doing so much beautiful work. So thank you for that. Every little bit helps. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you to the town and to the council for supporting us, because we couldn't do it without, you know, your backing, and the staff, the Parks and Recreation staff are actually, you know, phenomenal, right? So without them, we couldn't do what we do. But it is a busy season, that's for sure. It is the season, I guess, for us. So this month has really been really busy, and we were out on the streets today, and we're going to be out on the streets tomorrow morning doing some more work. So, yeah, we'll get our work done and then hopefully be able to sit back and enjoy it. So,
yes,
Well, great.
Good stuff. Okay, anybody have questions for any committee chairs? Go ahead, Councillor Lesser.
I don't have a question for committee chair. I don't know if I can ask this of Mark Brophy though at this time. To do with the, it's to do with the ferry terminal. I saw a large transport truck pulling in the other morning on my way to work, carrying something on the back, and I wasn't sure what that was. If it was the boost maybe that was coming in, or it was just exciting to see another truck pulling in with more work being done on that.
That's the first 3 booths for the CBSA.
Awesome.
Very good. Anybody else? Any questions? Good. Go ahead, Deputy.
Not a question, but just more so a call out and a thank you. And I mean, the community in Blooms is one thing, but you know, it just seems like we have volunteers that step up over and over again and just that make our town what it is. And I love driving by and seeing the people out, you know, doing stuff or even getting involved. Obviously, we have a very involved council here, and just a shout out to the volunteers that, you know, often go behind the scenes without any credit or clout, and without them our town wouldn't look like it looks. And you know, you drive down the street one day, you drive back down and the flowers are there, and you know, people who don't think that adds to kind of where we are and what we live, you know, don't really buy into kind of what's going on. But I just, you know, if we didn't have them, our town wouldn't look like they do. And you know, thank you to those people who continually step up. And you know, there's a lot of them here and around this table at the moment, so just a shout out because it's very much appreciated.
Thank you. We're good? Okay. Additions. Okay, we've got a list here. So I'll start. I had just jotted down the housing report, and I know that I had Lindsay send out an email just to bring everybody together to discuss that report. And I will just say time got away with us. I've been booked solid. I actually asked the deputy to sign checks today because it's just been it's been really busy. So that housing report, what happened is NSFM had the mayors and wardens come together on a call and discuss that. there are a number of items in the 17 pieces that are listed that are focused on municipal government. And Jeff, you've probably hauled those out anyway, but if not, I'm just going to get Juanita to send them to us so that we've got that concrete. This is where we are in this picture. Send them off to council, and we still have a little bit of time, not much, a little bit of time to just have a discussion, or I can send it out and you can send in your thoughts. I just want to capture what you're thinking about the housing piece. Is something missing? Obviously, you know, it's different in HRM than it is here. You know, we have by far, I think, the most per capita social housing, and you know, all those things rolled in together. So it's really important to us as well. So I will get that out as soon as I have NSFM send me the points that are pulled out that are municipally directed. Is that okay with everyone? And you can send your thoughts or not. If you're okay with the report, that's good, but I just want you to have an opportunity to have some input. It's just important that we do that. The second one is the lobster cars. So we can all chime in here, but I think maybe a little bit of excitement on Main Street, because what's going in, or we've got the bump outs, we've got the pieces of granite, we're going to have seating in. And we've got what we're calling lobster cars, which is very much a part of our history and our heritage and our culture here in Yarmouth. They're not just random pieces. They provide a little bit of shade. Once it gets all set up, when you have that lobster car piece, then you have the next piece, which are the kitchen party chairs, the color, all that stuff together. I think it's going to be a really nice picture. I actually had 2 notes from different people today that said this is one of a kind. You're not going to see it anywhere else, and that they were really proud of being able to say that this is happening in Yarmouth. So we're pretty excited about that. Yeah. So, Councillor Lester, did you have questions around that one? Because what we've done is taken the lobster car and just kind of divided it and spread it out through Main Street, and it provides a little bit of shade for folks as well.
Yeah, no, I don't, not really questions. I know some people are questioning what these things are that are going there. Of course, you're going to have people that are going to say the negative side of they're blocking from being able to see people, you can't go as fast, all that. I'm going to admit that I was anti-bump out before council, and nobody on council convinced me of anything different. But when I found out what bump outs are and what the purpose is of slowing people down and letting pedestrians be seen, I became a fan of bump outs. And, you know, I'll probably, that's my next election I've just lost probably by saying that. But it's, if I decided to run again, but the bump outs, they work. They are slowing traffic down. These large pieces of public art they're purposely placed in places where you're not gonna hit somebody. I know people are saying there's some blind spots. I've driven by and I can't see where anybody's going to. This is going to cause an accident for somebody walking, but it is unique to have it downtown. I know some other people have commented about is it art or not art, and everybody has a different opinion of that. There's a lot of other art being done downtown over time, and you know, this is one of many projects, but it's so nice to be able to, like, you know, I was in Windsor, Ontario a few years ago, and they have a sculpture garden along the waterfront facing Detroit, and it's unique to that area. And I think, you know, now that we're getting some sculptures there, it can maybe inspire us to do a few more things along those lines. And I would encourage anybody who, you know, maybe are being naysayers about it, to get involved and give us your ideas of things that we can do in the town to make the town more lively, more fun. You know, this isn't something like, you know, people asking about it, like, is it tax dollar going into it or whatever. We had an opportunity when doing some of the work that was done downtown to also redesign the way it looks downtown and make it safer. So Kudos whoever, like, obviously it wasn't me that came up with the idea, but I really like the idea and I can't wait to see it finished, and see some of the other projects going in. And I am, once again, I am a fan of bump outs now.
Well, that's good. Go ahead, Councillor Dares.
Thank you, Worship. There were a lot of people that have questioned, of course, what they represented. And I did have a discussion some time ago with the Economic Development Officer, and it was agreed that perhaps there should be an information panel to explain exactly what these art pieces are. And anyone that doesn't think they're durable enough, I challenge you to try and knock one over, because they're very, very well built. And to discourage the graffiti artists in our community, they've been clear coated, so it'll be easy to get it off again. And I think it's a nice attraction, and it speaks to the history of our community, and I think it's representative of the lobster fishing industry, which is the main industry in this area. So I think it's very neat, and I'm really pleased to see it happen. And I got to say, I'm going to kind of echo what Councillor Lesser said. I wasn't convinced about the bump outs, but I do see for pedestrian safety alone, just for that one reason, I'm now an adherent.
Thank you. It's funny. Poor Mr. Brophy. I've probably asked him over the last year and a half 50 times, tell me again, what are those bump outs for, mainly for? And he keeps reaffirming the safety issue. And again, today I had a note from a gentleman. It wasn't a nice one, but, I explained to him that, these bump outs, I can remember people on Main Street, like just trying, and Gil, you were our traffic authority, like people stepping onto the sidewalk, the crosswalk, and trying to peek around the cars. That's just dangerous. This way, the vehicles see them, they see the vehicles coming, the bump outs slow down traffic. It's just, I know I get, I get accused all the time of trying to, spend money to make the downtown pretty and all those pieces, but it really is functional. And I would also say that, before we started putting paint and focusing on color and all those things, we didn't have our coffee shops. We didn't have, our brewery. We didn't have, so many of those other shops that add so much to the community, because who wants to put a business somewhere where you're surrounded by stuff that just looks awful? So, I think part of the issue is, thank goodness we've had councils, where I'm on my third council, that have all been committed to the long-term plan. Because I completely get it. When you started, it's just like, what on earth are they doing? But you have to have that vision. And when you have the vision, you can just see each step of the way. And we're getting so close. I'm so excited to see this next piece that, it's just amazing work that's been done. Councillor Dares, and then Jeff.
My only regret after 6 years of being involved with the facade program was that I didn't take before pictures. That I didn't go down the street and take a video of Main Street, both sides of the street, at the outset, because it really was sad. Main Street was sad, and it's no longer sad. So, it's good stuff.
Very, very true. Jeff, and then Heather.
Worship, I just wanted to say that the last phase of the streetscape improvements brought us our first round of bump outs, and I remember when we were at the design phase of that and seeing all the benches, I reflected on that, and I thought about when benches were being taken out of our downtown, right? Because people were concerned about the loitering and that. And once they got installed, people were sitting on those benches under the trees, near the grass and the flowers, and it gave downtown, it was part of what changed our downtown. The biggest part was the attitudinal change that came from council, that you valued downtown and you wanted it to change. And so phase one was a success. And I'll be the first to say, when I saw this public art concept on paper, I wasn't sure how the last council was going to react to it. And it was very positive, and it kind of surprised me. And I guess I learned from the first phase that I was skeptical about the benches and how they would be received and what would come from that. I was skeptical about this, but I've come to be really looking forward to it. Like those kitchen party chairs, I think they're going to be a feature that people are really going to enjoy. I do think people will say, yeah, that's unique in Yarmouth, and it is art. It is a little bit of interpretation involved there, and appreciation. But we could have just put a lobster car downtown, and it would have just been a shed. But we've broken it up and applied our town colors to it, and I think it's going to be unique, and you're going to see pictures of it. Not everyone's going to appreciate it, but I think it will contribute once again to the kind of downtown that everyone should be proud of.
Yeah, I remember a conversation with you where it was the loitering, like those benches, and we sat together and said, you don't take the bench away, you just put a whole lot more in. Yeah. And that's what we did. And it's just it has said for me, it has said we're not trying to keep people out. We're everybody is valuable, everybody is welcome, and we're just going to create enough space for everybody to sit and enjoy. And I think the rubber stamp for me was when I was sitting in my office one day, and an elderly, and when I say elderly, I mean she had a cane and everything. It's one of the times that I cried as a mayor, and she found her way to the mayor's office, and she said, Mayor, I just have to thank you for all the benches downtown, because I've told this story before. Because I used to get a taxi and go to the drugstore and make the taxi wait, and then I'd get back in the taxi after I got my prescriptions and I go back home. And she said, now I call my friends and we go to those nice coffee shops, and we go downtown and we take a walk and we go in the stores because we have benches now that we can rest on. And I said that alone did it for me. So yeah, we've come a long way. Councillor Hatfield.
Yeah, I just kind of want to reiterate some of what's been said, but for me, the bump outs, I've always liked the bump outs. Nobody had to convince me about the bump outs. I just find that I've been a fan of them. I know it has increased or added to the safety of downtown, but for me, it's that visual. It's that visual and interest when you're looking down our main street, that there's some interest. It's not just a straight street anymore. There's texture to it. There's interest to it. And for me, that just makes it, right? It's awesome. And I think that we're going in the right direction, and we're doing great things. So.
We sure are. Okay. Was there a motion there, or were we just having a chat? Okay. That was a chat on the lobster card. Deputy Mayor, you're up next with addiction support, please.
Yeah, so there's some discussion lately just about, the drug issue kind of in our town and whatnot. And I know it's definitely not just our town. I think it's a provincial, nation, maybe worldwide problem at that. But I'm just wondering if maybe we could reach out to the minister and just see if there's a list of supports that maybe we could promote for people, see what's already in place, and maybe if we see something where there's some shortcomings or whatnot, we could discuss maybe, what could be done to kind of move forward on that, and just let the public know that there are things being done and that there are supports here, and that, we're not turning blind eyes to sweeping things under the rug to a problem that we all know exists. And I just think sometimes we take for granted that those things are out there and people may not know about them. And just, Zach probably has a very, extensive list on what it is that, is available here, and anything we can do to kind of get that out to the public to help someone go in the right direction. I think that's forward thinking for us.
Good. Go ahead, Councillor Dares.
Yeah, on that note, Deputy Mayor, I believe there used to be an interagency committee. Oh, I know there was. There was an interagency committee years ago that dealt with things like the drug issues. I'm wondering if that's still in existence, and I doubt it. And would it be of value today? Because it brought all of the main players, I guess, together at one table to discuss the local issues. So I wonder if that's something that could be initiated again. I'd be happy to help with that.
There's a mental health group. I know because I spoke at their group a couple of years ago. Yeah, I have to think of. I can. Debbie Nickerson, I believe, was part of that. Yeah, there's a list somewhere. Did you want to? So, deputy, is your idea to reach out to the MLA as the minister with that new portfolio? Want to make a motion to maybe write a letter and just see what there is, and then we can kind of do some work.
Yeah, so make a motion to reach out to our MLA to see what supports are available for addiction services in our area. And I do like the idea that Councillor Dares just brought up as well, but I'm sure that can be done in a separate motion or even within ourselves maybe, and just see what could be moved forward there.
Yeah, okay. Who wants to second that motion?
So I'll second that motion.
Councillor Dares. Any further discussion?
Question?
Questions called. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Contrary? Motion carried. Thank you. Number 4, animal population. You want to start, Councillor Cleveland?
Well, sure, because originally you mentioned bringing up deer, and I've talked about deer plenty, but this time I actually have another issue that was brought up by a couple of constituents, and it's the raccoon situation of all things. And I have a question actually for probably the CAO, who may know this, but the question was asked to me, is there an agency that handles that? Do you call the SPCA? What do you do about a raccoon problem?
Natural resources, but
Yeah, my understanding is that my understanding of how people have dealt with raccoons is by using live traps. And I don't know, but I think that Natural Resources may have those available. If they don't, we can look into exactly how one goes about live trapping, but that's the only way I've heard of them being dealt with. Now, the issue becomes if you go down that road and you get a skunk instead of a raccoon, now you've got a problem on your hands.
Very true. Does Natural Resources even, I don't know, sometimes those guys, and no offense, and we are in a public meeting, but I find that they tend to kind of ignore problems at times. The second part of that question, if I may, the reason that it was mentioned because they want to know how to handle it, but they also mentioned an unsightly building that they believe it's coming from. It's down in the South End. And I won't mention the building, but I will be forwarding, I guess, to you, CAO, and you can send it to others from there, pictures of this building and the address, and maybe that can be another one of those buildings that gets on the list that gets looked at.
For sure.
Thank you.
okay, Councillor Dares, you were going to.
Yeah, well, I've had this issue. I live trapped 13 raccoons in my backyard, 15 feet from my doorstep, in a 3-week period. Natural Resources will not take carriage of that issue, and their suggestion is that you relocate them to Crown land. And I'm not sure where Crown land is, so you have to find your own way to Crown land. I can tell you that there's a gentleman that lives in Center Town. I think you all know him. It's Tracy Hatfield, and I think if you contact Tracy, you'll find that he's literally trapped in his neighborhood over the years hundreds of raccoons.
Oh my.
So not 10 or I once thought he said 70, but his brother-in-law told me it was 700 over the years. It is it's an issue in this town, and I know that just like I say, in my backyard, 13 in a 3-week period, I just gave up.
Wow. I had 3 in my wisteria bushes, and one of them had The whole side of his face was pussy. So he was infected, which scared me because when I was growing up, Mom used to put us out in our carriages and kind of let us have fresh air. Well, you can't let kids out in that.
No,
So yeah.
in a previous life, I dispatched a couple of raccoons that were rabid in town.
Yes.
Dispatched is a nice way of saying shot, but it had to be done because they were vicious. It is a problem. I don't really know, other than supplying people with live traps and some education on how to use them. And I know there are people out there that'll do it, but it's for a fee. Not everybody can afford to pay. I think it's like $25 per visit. So I don't think everybody can afford that. But anyway, just to echo what what Councillor Cleveland said, it's an issue. It's an issue every bit as serious, I think, sometimes as the deer issue, but in a different way.
Yeah.
They'll also invade your house. So if they can get into your attic, they will. And there's, I've heard a couple of horror stories about a raccoon dropping down into a third floor apartment closet through the ceiling. So yeah. And so they are a serious issue. And I wish I knew the answer.
Yeah. Councillor Lesser?
I think the answer, I think you're supposed to count the droppings, and then we take that number and turn it into somebody, and then they will get rid of the problem. But do they make live traps for deer?
I was thinking, can you feed them some of those Alka-Seltzer that makes them look rabid?
It seems like outside of turning Yarmouth into a zoo as a tourism industry, we have a lot of animals in our town that are causing problems, are dangerous if they're in the road or if they're destroying things. And it seems to me we have a department that should be handling it. I know they sometimes, like, I've heard that they don't cross into town boundaries, I guess, I think is the case. But our town citizens pay the same taxes as people in the county. And I think these animals that are living in the county are quite well suited there. So yeah. I don't know how our tax dollars should still be going to. I mean, the problem's bigger to have them in a dense population than they are to have them in the county. So I don't know why we can't get something done through our government agency that deals with this. But and I know you guys have all, like, for people who have been on council before, it's been an ongoing debate and trying to get it done. But it would be nice somewhere in this 4-year term to try to come up with some solutions of how to get rid of these animals, and hopefully in a peaceful way.
Yeah, it's going to take. I shouldn't say this, but I will. It'll take somebody getting very, very sick or very, very injured before anybody will do anything. It's sort of like off ramps on highways. We don't do anything until somebody. It's really bad. CAO, you were gonna.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. You're right, Your Worship. And unfortunately, we have had a fatality within our community from a deer strike. So, yeah. And that's not enough, apparently. So we did have the opportunity a week or two ago to meet with Minister Maguire, the new Minister of Municipal Affairs, and it was one of the things that we raised with the minister, that Lands and Forestry should have jurisdiction over wildlife within towns, and that was just one example of how towns are disadvantaged in this province, as being excluded from some of these government services. And he understood it. I think he understood the issue. Not that it was going to change overnight, but I think that's kind of the way you have to go about it, is constantly at the political level to remind them that as trustees of a town, as Councillor Lesser said, your citizens pay the same taxes to the province as any other citizen in the province, and deserve the same service. And we will gladly cede our jurisdiction to Lands and Forestry if they would come in and address the issues with wildlife.
It's easy to address issues where the deer are supposed to be, not addressing them where they're not supposed to be. So I found a letter on my desk yesterday, a handwritten letter, and it was basically, okay, the deer are pretty, and yes, they eat all of my plants, and they're costing me a fortune, but then they were on this lady's house because she had ivy on it, and then knocking down the shingles. So yeah, there's just too much damage being done, way too much damage being done. So I guess we'll have to, Gil, do you remember, I had to hop off the NSFM call because I had added on the town caucus, I added deer population because it's an issue for the towns. Do you remember what the outcome of that was, or they just discussed it in general?
Actually, there was no outcome. I don't think it really made it to the agenda. It was there, but I don't think there was any discussion. It was just and I think it's something that has to be raised again and again with the town caucus for sure.
Yeah.
To push that agenda to the province. This is not a problem of Yarmouth town. This is a problem of every town in the province. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Could we write another letter to I don't know, Minister of Natural Resources perhaps, and put it on paper once again that we would like somebody to come down and help us problem solve, and we can be partners on that, but we need some help on it. Nobody at this table is going to solve the deer and porcupine and raccoon or whatever problems we have in town on our own.
Yeah, right now I think it's we could write a letter, but I would need to get every other mayor to sign it, which they gladly would, and start doing op-ed pieces. Like it needs some attention. Go ahead, Councillor Dares.
Yeah, just because you were the person that brought it to the agenda for the town caucus, Your Worship, I just wanted to tell you that the issue was addressed by somebody saying that there was going to be a webinar hosted by Department of Natural Resources to deal with the issue. And so everybody said, oh, well, if we can wait 10 days and we'll join the webinar. Unfortunately, the webinar wasn't about deer, it was about bears. So
I just
kind of misled there.
Get it. Okay, I remember that.
We have a bear problem yet, so.
Yes. Well, everybody else is in town. Go ahead, Councillor or CAO.
Your Worship, I was just going to say that I have heard that the deer issue is an issue for rural municipalities too, particularly those that have hamlets or villages within them where people live close together and they're not expecting a lot of wildlife, or at least the wildlife conflicts with the human activity. So it may be an issue that goes broader than just the town caucus, just if you're looking for that additional support. And we all know that more people live in rural Nova Scotia than in small towns. So if you're looking to add to the support for having Lands and Forestry take a provincial view of it, it might be worth casting the net a little wider.
Okay, we'll do that then. Are we good on that one, folks? Not good on it, but there it is. Okay. Trying to find my agenda now. I'm looking for approval of invoices then. Councillor Cleveland, second by Councillor Lesser. All those in favor? Aye. Contrary? Motion carried. Good thing, because I think the deputy did the checks today. Thank you. And the date of next meeting is July the 8th, 2021. And we're looking for a motion to go in camera, please.
So moved.
Councillor Cleveland.
Second.
Second by Councillor Hatfield. All those in favor?